Hello everybody and welcome to the webinar tonight from IIAD. Today we will be speaking about our course in Interior Architecture and Design, which is one of the courses that we offer. So thank you for tuning in, and I'm joined today here by Czaee Malpani, who's faculty at Interior Architecture and Design, and Rimjhim Khanna, who's supporting us from admissions team.
Hi everyone.
And I'm Anubha. I look after marketing and outreach, and I'm also incidentally an architect. So, what is interior architecture? Czaee, would you take us through this?
Absolutely. So all along, I'm sure most of you heard about interior design, and suddenly we're throwing this new term at you, which is interior architecture. Therefore, let's talk a bit about what that could be. Essentially, what we do in interior architecture is we're covering everything except for structures, and all spaces are affected by interiors. You cannot inhabit a space without turning, or any kind of a thing bound in by four walls, or sometimes not even bound in by four walls, and not want to turn it into a place. Interior architecture tries to take a person's hopes, dreams, aspirations, desires, and give it a concrete form. To use materiality, use texture, use objects to put a place together, and it's everywhere you go.
Yeah, so essentially, other than just designing the outside of the building and the site, what you do, everything that you do inside the building comes under the purview of interior architecture, and it's far greater and far more than interior design or interior decoration itself. And what is the scope for interior architecture then, Czaee?
So once you study interior architecture, actually the whole world is open to you. You could, within the whole purview of interior architecture, get into various kinds of specializations. You could be working with residences, you could be working with offices, you could be working with hospitals, you could be working with restaurants. You could even be working with set design, scenography, and you could take this into photography or whatever else that you'd like to do. So I would say the scope of interior architecture is incredibly broad, including, of course, going on for further studies, going to grad school, and people are reinterpreting interiors all the time. I mean, to take an example, think of how many times you might redo your own living room over a course of a lifetime. And that's just private space. Look at what's happening to public spaces. All public spaces are constantly undergoing change. We're not building as much in this country anymore as much as we are focusing on interiors. So I would say the scope is really large.
Yeah, in fact, taking that further, I would say that in fact, most architects these days are also in a way practicing interior architecture, because as I pointed out, that we are not building many new buildings because of lots of pressures on land, on space and all of that, but we are constantly refurbishing, renovating and re-looking at our existing buildings and spaces and environments, and that is where interior architecture comes in very handy. So whether it's the restaurants, the hotels, the cinemas, the offices, the schools, even the hospitals, everything and more needs interior architecture today. So just an
example. For example, look at this which is from Miniput and the two track trunk. And it's a whole reinterpretation of a space. If we move on, we can look at this particular image, which is from a home, and how it's using sustainable materials. It's looking at its own context. It's trying to integrate itself. And it's not like Anubha had earlier mentioned, it's not just about the shell of the building, right? We only ever notice the shell of the building going in and out of it. But where we spend our time in any kind of a building is within its interiors. Take, for example, co-working spaces or office spaces. These are, again, spaces where we're spending chunks of time during the day. So it's almost we're morally responsible for making sure everybody gets a great environment to live, breathe, work, play in.
And these are just some examples that we've taken from a entertainment, recreation, or a residential or an office working environment. But going further, the same logic and the same design sensibility applies to restaurants, theaters, malls, schools, and institutions, and what have you. So how is the program at IIAD structured? I'll let Czaee talk a bit more about that. So let's start with the vision.
So, I mean, largely the idea is you can never look at design in isolation, right? Design is not just taking an idea and turning it into a product. It's understanding everything that it is a part of. So when we study design here, we're looking at technology, ideology, history, politics, all of which is anyway right now in front of you. But also really understanding context, which is what informs the way we've even structured our program. So because we are one of the 3 programs within the school, we are also focusing a lot on looking towards fashion, looking towards communication, to understand how we can inform our own discipline. We are looking towards other fields of study, again bringing them to inform the discipline, trying to understand what kind of practices can go into interior design. We're at this very interesting juncture where we are both globally focused and we are locally focused. So we are trying to make the best of both worlds here. The good things about the program at the interior architecture program here and all programs at IIAD is there are 3 tenets that hold it together. One is we have a studio-based learning. So everything that we do is happening within a studio space, which kind of replicates the idea of an office. We unpack all our knowledge through the studio. And I'd have to say this, and this is probably an exciting thing to hear, we actually don't have anything such as subjects. We don't have categories into, okay, today you'll be in this class from here to here, from this one to here to here. All of this is happening simultaneously for you through working on projects within the studio. The other thing that binds our programs together is the fact that while we may not have subjects, we have these 4 categories all teaching and instruction is divided under. So we are looking at context, we're looking at process, design realization, and personal and professional development, which essentially any project that we do here, and more importantly, any project that we do in the real world, right, is informed from all of this. It's informed by looking at research. It's informed by doing various iterations of the same project that you're working on, trying out different concepts, trying out different designs. Then from there on, taking it into actually getting into a stage where it could go up on site. And all of this together does constitute a person's development. The last thing I'd like to talk about in terms of how, again, the program is structured here is that we don't understand the program as being linear. We don't imagine that you come in here not knowing anything. This doesn't mean that you have to have taken classes in interior design or interior architecture or gone to a coaching center. No, our basic belief is even as somebody who's graduating out of high school, there are ways in which you've grown up in the world. There are ways in which you've learned things about the world. So we always begin by questioning that knowledge and trying to unpack that for you. What do you already intrinsically know about design, right? Which you've never put under the rubric of saying that, oh, I know design, but you do, because every moment of your life is designed. Next, once we've done that, when you start your disciplinary program here, we do that for the first year. The next year onwards, we actually take everybody and put them onto live projects. So unlike other programs where you'd be working with hypothetical situations, here we are very committed to making sure that you are actually working on a project. You are working with design that will get realized, which will get executed on site, which will allow for you to, by the time you graduate, have a wonderful understanding of how projects work. You're graduating essentially with a CV which nobody else does. So that's level 5. And level 6, which is our final level, is when you do a thesis project or a capstone project. And again, try to understand what you've done over the last 2 years, whether it was level 4, where you understood your own position in the design field. Level 5, you understood it through working with other vendors, clients, agents within the design field. You bring both of these together towards designing your own project now.
Right. So I think you've kind of covered that, Czaee, but how is this program different from the other programs in interior design or even in other interior architecture programs?
I think the biggest difference, Anubha, that we have with this program is that we are working on live projects. We are not working on situations where somebody walks into studio and says, okay, today we're going to design an office. And so you go through the process of learning how to design, but you really have no idea how that design will be tested out in the world out there. What we say is you can do all of that plus execute your project. You can take it from being an idea to being a finished product. So what are the advantages here? Your learning is very, very tangible. Your learning is
almost
very
real time. Yeah,
it's absolutely real. It's in real time.
So let's
and
take
you have a CV at the end of it.
Absolutely.
Unlike other schools where you just have a portfolio that's marking out your projects. Here you actually have projects you worked on. You're a far more hireable person.
So we'll take you through this project which our students had done. So Czaee, briefly, if you can talk about it, what was this?
So this was working with bamboo for a local school where they were doing a workshop and trying to create a thatch roof for this with using low cost materials, sustainable materials, reusable materials. This was happening at level 4.
And then we have this project, which is a lamp project. So a little bit about this.
This was also an interesting project. The idea behind this, and this was more of an in-house, was that all the level 5 students had to look at certain lamps, understand how they work, and from there on come to designing their own working prototypes of lamps. The idea was that we should be able to sell these lamps, and some of in fact, the room we're sitting in is peppered with examples of it. And it was very interesting. We got great feedback on it. Students really enjoyed it. They learned everything to do with, from design, form, electricity, putting wires together, working with somebody to craft a product. So it was
and as you can see here, we have somebody from the industry, Amit Gulati in this case, come and take a review, and he did feel very happy after he had seen the projects. And this is a project done by level 4 students again, Czaee.
Yeah. So this was the Museum of Me project, as you can see on the screens. This was a short project we did this semester, in fact, which was again trying to understand questions of partition, but more importantly, and you guys should all read this book by Achal Malhotra called Remnants of a Separation, where we tried to understand how an object has so much meaning. An object is not, you tend to ignore it every day. But you have all these family histories that are tied to objects. During the partition, people carried certain objects which were maybe deemed very commonplace, but they were important to their survival. They were important to their ideas of their memories. So it had each student unpack their own memories, unpack the knowledge they already had, and put it together as an exhibit. So this was also kind of a short little project into understanding curation, understanding set design. One of our students discovered a whole lineage going back to the 16th century, which she was completely unaware of.
Right. So again, just these thanks. So again, as we have already talked about, so interior architecture and design, and somebody here is actually asking the question, I can see it on my screen, is where do we get job offers after completing a course at IIAD or in interior architecture and design? Like we've already said, and like you can see on your screen right now, you can get into residential design, you can get into commercial space design, which means offices and institutes and other such places. Institutional space design separate also means looking at larger institutes. Let's say, for example, the Vigyan Bhavan, the conference center, the Noida Expo Place. These are all institutional spaces. And of course, workplace and office designs. Any building now, which any major office, whether it be IBM or Airtel hires, they get a floor plate, which is just an empty floor, and everything else that gets into that space, which is where the offices of these big multinational companies come up, is essentially done by interior architects. And similarly for hospitality and retail, and that is something that you must have felt when you visited a restaurant or visited a mall, how quickly it turns around. A good restaurant ideally turns around its interiors in maybe 2 or 3 years. And shops do it even lesser, maybe a year, because with each season they change. And of course, the temporary exhibition designs, be they in museums or be they in convention centers, or you might have visited education fairs. So all of those are all the works of interior architects. And as I mentioned, set design, you might have all seen Padmavat or anything else. So all that comes into the domain of an interior architect as well. And scenography, which is designing a scene for a particular experience. And so it is endless. These are just indicators. You can really tailor your career the way you want it. As we've already mentioned, you can get into photography, which is architectural or interior photography. You can get into writing about it, and you can pretty much do anything that you want with this. The 3 programs that we have currently at IIAD are 4-year duration programs in communication design, fashion design, and of course interior architecture design. And we are affiliated to Kingston University, which is ranked among the top 10 art and design universities in the UK. And upon the completion, you will be awarded a degree by Kingston University, which makes you an international alumnus of Kingston University. The IIAD admission process is very simple. You should have an eligibility of having passed the class 12th board in 2018 or before.
Yeah, so students who are pursuing their 12th standard will be giving boards in March are 100% eligible to apply for the institute. The application forms are available on the website. In fact, the students from commerce, science or humanities stream can apply for interior architect design course. So maths and physics are not the mandatory subjects. So again, repeating, students from humanities stream can apply for the course.
So selection criteria is an iDAT and a portfolio assessment and studio simulation.
Yes, so we conduct our own entrance exam, that is iDAT, IIAD Design Aptitude Test, wherein we are conducting 3 rounds. The first is a written exam, wherein we are judging student on the basis of creativity skills, your design skills, and little bit of logical reasoning. So we have 2 sections, section A as logical reasoning and section B as creative thinking and visual ability. So you have to score good in both the sections.
How is this divided? Is that you will have to give, you will be handed out your logical reasoning paper first, which takes about 30 minutes. It's like any standard logical reasoning exam. Once you register, you will be taken through the process individually by our admission counselors. You'll also get a sample paper, so you can look at it more in detail. The section B, which is creative thinking and visual ability, is also trying to not really assess your design skills, but assess your visual aptitude. And it's great fun to give this paper, trust me on that. After that, what we have is we call the shortlisted students for a portfolio assessment and a studio simulation, which means that there's a personal interaction, not like an interview in a room, but in a studio. And what we do get to do is we get to talk with you on a one-to-one basis. You're also more relaxed because then you're not facing a kind of an interview panel, and you get to really experience how a design studio works. So it's a far more stress-free and interesting format in which you can interact with the faculty who's also trying to assess your aptitude. So that is how the iDAT works. Now, students applying for interior architecture and design can be exempt from the written test if they have appeared for NATA and based on their NATA score. So they can move directly to their portfolio assessment and studio simulation. And as Rimjhim mentioned, unlike in NATA, we are not looking at people who have to have maths or physics or the PCM subjects. We are open to all subjects, and that is not because of anything else, but simply as an architect, I also firmly believe that design is a skill that should be learned by anybody and everybody. It is not necessarily just to do with the logical reasoning. A lot of it is to do with intuition, and therefore all students from all streams are very, very necessary to make a robust studio cohort. So as I said, if you apply now, you get a copy of the sample paper and you get handheld by our admission counselor to take you through the whole process, and they're available for you whenever you want them to be.
So you will be given with the sample papers on the registered email ID once you complete the application form. We do offer scholarships. So the class 12 students have a good news and have an advantage, because once you complete the application form, you will be given with the scholarship form. The eligibility to enter into the scholarship criteria is minimum percentage in 12th standard should be 70%. And 65% above in your English. Once you complete your application, you'll be given with the scholarship form that is to be downloaded, and you can fill it accordingly.
Okay. So you've already spoken about this, Rimjhim.
Also, the students who haven't scored above 70% in 12th have another well advantage of getting the scholarship. So backing the scholarship, that's in the next year. So as ma'am said that yes, we do have a 4-year course wherein first year is foundation year. The first kind of scholarships are given when you enter into IIAD, and the second one are known as the Edward Newton Scholarship.
So last.
Also, I will recommend students who are giving their board exams to hurry up and apply. The last day to submit the application form is 31st of March. The sooner you apply, you will get the sample paper so that you have ample of time to prepare well for the entrance exam. We have various entrance exam centers. So Delhi Test Center, the dates, please be careful with the dates. The entrance exam is on 14th of April. That's your written exam, iDAT. Next, we have 15th, 16th, and 17th April for the portfolio as well as studio simulation round. So you will be given with the slots and as per the dates mentioned in the admit card. We'll be out with the admit cards after 31st of March only. We have outstation centers also. So apart from Delhi, we have Bangalore, Bhopal, Lucknow, and Calcutta. The date is 23rd of April and 24th of April. Again, you will be given with the slots for the portfolio as well as studio simulation. For any further queries, I recommend students to please contact us freely on the landline number that is mentioned, 41380000, or you can contact me directly on 9871383633. So please note down the numbers, and you can directly apply to our institute for the application, that is www.iiad.edu.in. Otherwise, we're also connected on various social medias. We are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Quora. So if you have any, and also Pinterest. So if you have any questions and you want to see the work of students, you can directly go to Instagram. I know that students are very hip on Instagram and Facebook, so go and have a look. Hope to see you at IIAD.
Right, so now you will get to see us. What are some of the questions that we have? Okay, so we have, how is interior designing different from lifestyle accessory design? Czaee, you want to take that, or do you want me to take that?
Lifestyle accessory design. I mean, put like that, there could definitely be overlaps between the two. You could consider interior architecture as a way of styling your spaces, but I would say with interior architecture, we go a little bit more into depth than merely styling. We are also looking at understanding all the components that go into a building. So you're going to be learning about services, you'll be learning about lighting, you'll be learning about products. So it's not merely just styling.
Yeah, also it is not just about lifestyle. And what exactly do you mean by lifestyle? Here we talk sometimes, you saw the bamboo project. So that's done for a community which we call is a less privileged community. So it could be working with all stratas of society. You're not just working on a particular lifestyle. You're working on creating environments and spaces that are open and democratic to all kinds of people. And it is not just about that accessory, it is about the entire experience. I hope that's answered your question, Prachi. If you have any more, please do type in. What if a student does not have a good drawing skill but a good creative mind? Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd love to answer that. So one of the things is we do focus a lot on what we call representation, right? And now what does representation mean? It's a way you're translating or transforming ideas up here into things on paper, things on other media if you're interested. That said, you don't actually have to be good at drawing to be good at representation. You don't have to be good at drawing to be creative either. These are all skills because every discipline, every program has some kind of technical skill sets that it encourages. As interior architects, we make 3Ds, we make models, we make plans, sections, elevations. We have a whole repertoire of drawings. This is what you will learn here. So
exactly. So I always tell my students that don't worry if you think you can't draw, because like at learning any language, this too is a language which you learn once you come here. You never went to school learning how to write. You learned how to write in school, right? So you will come here and you learn how to draw or use any other media to represent what is it that you wish to communicate.
Little bit of a side note on it, we have students right now learning how to draw as if they were making a graphic novel.
Yeah.
Using technical drawings as well. So you'll pick up all these skills. I wouldn't worry about it at all.
I think there was an earlier question as to what is the eligibility to study at IIAD, and I think we've answered that. But just to reiterate, you should have cleared your class 12 or should be about to clear your class 12 board from any board and any stream, and then you have to appear for the IIAD entrance test called the iDAT, which is 2 components, the written test as well as the portfolio and the studio simulation. And there is certain question which is down there, what exactly is the portfolio round and what will be actually judged in that by Vanshika, I think. So portfolio round is where you get, if you have created a portfolio, you please get it along. We're just trying to assess you as a person who might have some creative inclination and design aptitude. You can really put everything into it. I say that time and again, don't get straitjacketed about creating your portfolio. If you write poetry, please put that in. If you've taken part in a school drama, please put a few pictures and tell us about it. If you have made a film, that could be a part of your portfolio. What we're trying to get into is your aptitude for design and what is your level of interest and passion about it, and that's all that we are judging. Nobody is going to look for your drawing skills and how well you sketch. And one thing that I think, and I think Czaee will agree with me, that puts off any design faculty anywhere, forget IIAD, is that if you have a doctored portfolio. So I would really strongly recommend, make your own portfolio, put in whatever from whichever it is. There's no cut-off age. It's not something that you should have done in the last 2 months or 2 years. It could go back, 16 years if it must. But everything that you think is worth putting in a portfolio which tells us about you is welcome. And you're assessed on just that, your aptitude.
See, the thing is, it's not like we're looking to get interior architects in here. We're looking to train people to become interior architects. And for that, all the evidence you need to show is a passion for it, like you pointed out. Okay. And that could come from various avenues for you.
There's another question which says, where do we get jobs after completing a course at IIAD? Like I said, that there are many sectors which are open to you. We've taken you through them in the presentation. It could be in residential interiors, corporate interiors, it could be in hospitality, it could be anywhere. It could even be in large corporations which provide products for interiors. For Jaguar, for example, which makes bathroom fittings, and they would need interior architects, or Philips, which does lights. So these are the kind of multiple avenues that would be open to an interior architect.
Can I add to that?
Yes, please. Of course.
It actually also depends on, as you go through your interior architecture program, you will also develop a sense of not just the kind of work you want to do, but the kind of places you want to work at. So, for example, you could go work at an IKEA, you could go work at a live space whenever IKEA comes to India. You could go work for Live Space, or all of these websites which are now offering design consultancy services.
Urban Ladder.
Exactly. Or you could go work for a product design company like Clove Lighting or anything else. Or you could set up your own practice if you're particularly inclined towards one kind of segment of interior architecture. So it really depends on you and your growth as a person.
I think there's a question, is what do we really get to study? And I think the student who was asking that, aspirant was asking, probably meant, and Pragya, do correct us if I have not understood you correctly, is what are the kind of subjects or topics that you cover? Czaee, would you want to?
Well, we actually, first of all, given that this is a Kingston University program, I did mention up ahead that we have 4 modules that we work with, right? There's context, there's process, there's realization, and then there's personal and professional development. These will be modules, like brackets of information that you will be working with throughout your 3 years here. Within each one of this, let's take context, for example. You will study history, you will study culture, you will study aspects of sociology, aspects of anthropology. There'll be all kinds of things, right? All of this, though, is not like some random field of study out there that today I walk into class and I must know about Roman architecture. Well, are you working on a project that needs you to know about Roman architecture at that point of time? So all of the studying that you will do will be very linked to the kind of projects you're working on. At level 4, projects shift, but the idea about level 4 is also to get you introduced to certain basic techniques and disciplines within techniques and strategies within the discipline. At level 5, you may be, some of the things. For example, this year's level 5 has began their year by working with Nimrana Hotels to design a restaurant for them at their Tijara property. They went into making a lamp. They're currently working with Fab India to do a children's experience center. They're currently also working with another client to do a landscape project. And everybody is what they're trying to do is through understanding, okay, children's experience center. What is the history of children's experience center? What do children need when they go for let's say, a play date? What kind of materials can we use in such a space? So you will really work on it like a project. You will think through all aspects of it, whether it's the history theory of it, whether it's the actual construction of it, whether it's how to make it, how to document it, how to talk to clients, how to do your research into it.
Just to rephrase it slightly differently, because I and I are both architects and trained architects. So what happens in a traditional B.Arch program is that you do subjects, but once you join an office, you really don't know what to do with it. So what happens in IIAD, we formulated our course in such a way that while you're learning all that you need to learn, it's structured in such a way that tomorrow when you join an office, you know exactly how to use your knowledge. But otherwise, after completing architecture, very often, for the first few months, 6 months, 1 year, the person is floundering and he does have to kind of relearn the whole system again. So here we're trying to give you a project-based learning approach so that you get into industry with all your right foot forward. So there's a question which says, is my future secure if I pursue interior architecture? Of course, as we just said.
In fact, more so than an architect.
More so than an architecture, and these are two architects.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, right. So that's because, as you said, there's not enough space, whether in India or anywhere in the world. In fact, ideally, even if there is, I think we should build less and reuse more, and that's where interior architecture comes in very handy. So your future is as secure as anybody can predict any future to be.
And if I might say, money is better in interior architecture.
Definitely, any day. It is it's much better than in architecture. So that I think also answers the next question, which is what is the starting salary? So it could vary. It depends on industry. I know, for example, that if you go into a sourcing industry, a company which actually sources material for architects to use in big projects, it could be very high. Now that depends on a person to person. While some people want to get into that, some people actually want to work in the NGO sector. So it is, your career is yours to design. Your starting salary could go as high as 40,000, which I have on record.
And it also depends on the city.
Yeah, it depends on the
city, where in the world you are,
exactly,
who you want to work with.
Who you want to work with. If you, for example, want to work with Ron Arad or Norman Foster, who are big architects, you might choose to take a no salary because you get to
them.
Yeah, because you get to work with them. We have to prepare our portfolio early or at the exam center. Early, please. You will not have any time. But the studio simulation test, you might be given a brief which you'll be working on in the studio while our faculty moves around and visits you. But the portfolio, it would be advisable if you have something compiled when you come. It's not mandatory, but it's advisable that you have a portfolio in hand when you come to visit us or when you come for the exam. So that will help. Do bad drawing skills affect the marks in IDAT? Yes and no. Yes, because there are certain questions which will be a little bit drawing based, but no, because there are a lot of other questions which are based on your visual aptitude. So as long as you're able to convey, when you say drawing, don't think of it as sketching, sketching as in the realistic sketching that you see on the street artist, or when you go to a bookshop and you see learn to sketch in 50 days or whatever it may be. That's not always drawing. A drawing can be a doodle as well. A drawing is a diagram. A flow chart is also a drawing. So don't narrow down drawing only to sketching. So IDAT has component of drawing which may not necessarily be sketching. So don't worry, it is a very balanced paper and you can attempt it. It is not necessary to have maths and physics? No, not at all. Not to do interior architecture. You don't have to have maths and physics as compulsory subjects in class 12th. How many works are needed for the portfolio? From 0 to infinity. It depends on you, really. It depends on what you want to put in there. But do take in time that at an average, a faculty member will not have more than 10 minutes to spend with you. So what is the level of depth that you want to get into with the interacting person? Whether you want him to see a whole range of work or you want him to see 4 or 5 which you really can talk about. So yeah.
Can I just add?
Yeah, please.
You always remember that the portfolio is actually a representation of you. Imagine that if you were not in the room and you wanted somebody to know something about you, what would you put forward? Right? It's in a certain sense like the clothes you wear. The clothes you wear are a representation of yourself, who you are. It's very important to you. The portfolio is doing the same job for you.
There's a very interesting question that does graphic design have any links with interior design, and could a graphic designer be an interior architect?
For sure.
I am not so sure. So
if you're trained to do both, it's actually interesting. We are working with the graphic design department right now on one of our exercises for the interior architecture students. So for the last week, they're being trained by a graphic communication design faculty. So there are significant ways of collaborating. You could be trained as a graphic designer and come into interior architecture. There are ways in which you could be an interior architect and go into graphic design later. And we are looking towards both negotiating that and facilitating that.
So how I would look at it is that in today's world, it is not important. It's not enough in any project to be only singular. It is all about multidisciplinarity. So when you have a complex project, the complexity of the team will be very high as well. If you're doing a highly, let's take the example for the sake of anything better, which comes to my mind, Padmavat, let's say. Yeah. So you would have an art director, you would probably have an architectural consultant, you would have a historian, then you of course would have a fabricator and all of that. You would also have a graphic designer, communication designer. So all sorts of many facets of designs will come together. So if you have a tendency towards graphic design, yes, of course, it will help you in interiors and vice versa. But there are certain facets of interior architecture, especially the service-oriented ones, which you will need to learn and be adept at when you go out into the world to be an interior architect. But if you have a higher aptitude for graphic, that could also be used in interiors. There are many people who just do graphics for interiors, for example. Sure. Right? There's a very interesting question. Do we need to be financially secure if we want to be an architect, interior architect? I don't really understand that. But
do you need the money to be?
Yeah, do you need
pay for your tuition?
Yes, of course. And do you? I think what it means, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think what it means is, do we have to not worry about earning a living if we want to be an interior architect? No, I thought that was more not even the case with artists anymore. I mean, everybody has to worry about earning a living. So I think it again depends on what you want to do. So if you do by chance have a lot of money and you don't have to worry about earning a living, great. But that said, if you don't and you want to earn a living after being an interior architect, please, yes, do consider it. As we said, it has a lot of scope and perhaps better than architecture even. Does IIAD offer in-campus placements? We facilitate in-campus placements. It depends on what is the interest level of the student, because sometimes students themselves don't want to go for an in-campus or assisted placement because they want to try out stuff on their own or they want to go through their own ways. That said, we are always here for you. We will be getting industry experts and we'll be getting people in for placements and for internships, and we'll be facilitating that all through. Does IIAD provide placement? That's the same question. Is it okay to attach prints or scanned images of our original paintings? Because few of them are bigger size. Yes, of course. Please carry scanned images or photographs of your paintings that you may have done. It'll be good to have a small representative one also, because sometimes one just needs to see the style up front. So if you have a larger one, but you have something similar or a pre-processed painting or drawing of the same, you could carry that. How is iDAT different if we compare it to NIFT and NID? I really have very little idea about NIFT and NID exams, but see, all of them will be in the same sphere, because in the end, everybody is trying to test your design and creative aptitude. So they would be in the same zone. There would be little bit of differences, but I think roughly they would be similar.
Can I just
Yes, sure.
Yeah, so it's more towards your creativity and more design skills. Well, NIFT and NID are more focusing on your maths, your English aptitude, as well as your more logical reasoning, but and GK as well. But in our iDAT, that's just the name itself defines that's IIAD Design Aptitude Test. So we are judging student only on the basis of creativity, design, and little bit of logical reasoning. So no maths, no GK, no English, and rest I guess it's to ma'am.
Yeah. So is interior architecture a course that we do after completing B.Arch? No,
Not necessarily.
not necessarily. It's a, if some of you are contemplating an architecture degree, you can do interiors as a master's program later. But interior architecture design course that we offer in IIT is an undergraduate program, and you don't have to have an architecture degree to do that. How can I contact your college via NATA? So as we already mentioned, if some of you are appearing for NATA, you don't have to appear for the written test all over again. You will have to come for your portfolio and studio simulation round. And is training for fashion design available in IIT? Yes, it is. And that will be another webinar about which keep your eyes and ears glued. And
But come for interior architecture.
Yeah. Can you explain what we do in a situation test? So it's not really a situation test in that sense. I mean, if you're taking it from the NIFT book, ours is a studio simulation. You will be given a brief and which you'll work on in a studio, and there will be faculty members who will be moving around the studio, asking you questions and queries or interacting with you while you continue working on your tables. So you will all be together, all the aspirants, so maybe 15 or 30, whatever is the number in the room that can be fitted in, and commensurate number of faculty members as well. So you'll all be there working on your tables, and faculty members will go from desk to desk, individually in pairs or however, and ask you, interact with you. Architecture, interior design, which course has more job scope? Czaee?
I would definitely say, much as we've said this twice before now, interior architecture has more scope. let me give you an example which we've used quite often. You go to the mall all the time, except for the flagship stores, and the flagship stores are always also quite often redoing the interiors. Think of the self-standing stores. They're there for 2-3 years. Then all you have is the shell. Somebody else comes in, redesigns it, and this goes on and on and on. So there's always a lot of work for interior architecture. And again, as we mentioned before, there isn't all that very much building activity happening now. We don't have the space in urban areas. We don't even really have the space to build particularly much unless you pull down whole structures and make new ones. Even when you do, if you're going to pull down, think of builder development flats. One house comes down, 4 flats go up, 4 apartments go up, and it's dead. Each one of those apartments need interiors done, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, for commercial spaces, think of heritage properties. I mean, Limrada was something we were working with, and look at all the interior design they're doing. So your scope is massive.
Yeah, and so that just leading on to the other question, which is there scope for landscape architecture and set design? Yes.
Sure.
There is, because again, these are things that are, see, what is very interesting is that design is a function of a developed economy. And our economy, as you know, is developing very fast, and we are one of the fastest growing economies in the world. And whenever there's a very, very strongly growing economy, design becomes a very important profession in that economy. Because with it comes disposable income and realization of aesthetics and so on and so forth, other than the social aspects of design as well. So the more our economy develops, the more the need for design professionals is going to be, whether it is for interiors, for landscape, for set design. Set design is directly, I mean, you can look at it, think for it. Most of these questions, you can think through it yourself. Think of how many awards have increased. I mean, I know that earlier there were just the Filmfare Awards. Now there's FIFA, Screen, this, that, and all of them need set design. There is the multiple reality shows which are happening on television. They all need set design. There are so many events that happen in your city. They all need certain kind of a design of whether it's a pandal or whether it's a conference center, whatever. So, all of that there is a tremendous scope for all of that. An interior architect is very well versed and equipped to handle all of that.
So many people have gone into event design.
Event design, yeah, massive. I'm a commerce graduate but interested in design. Of course, you should take up a course in design. Any day you ask whether you should go for a diploma. Why? Just a matter of 1 year. And I think as a trained, having a professional degree always works better in the long run. Also, if you want to then apply for masters either in India or abroad. So having a professional full degree always works in your favor rather than a diploma. So I would recommend that please do. Yeah. Chances to work abroad as an interior architect, of course.
Absolutely.
There is no reason why you can't. I mean, there's even more so the case there for less building and more redevelopment happening, so you can definitely work abroad. I mean, in fact, again, even more so than architecture, there are no licensing issues also. You don't need to have a recognized license in particular countries. You just apply to an office, and if they accept you, you are on your way. If we want to carry some of our creative works like glass, painting, or quilling, of course you can. I mean, you just have to figure out how you can carry it. You can carry it. That is a part of your portfolio. Like I said, it could be a poem. It could be a piece of music you've composed. Anything. I'll let you take this one. Difference between interior design and interior architecture.
All right. So the basic difference between interior design and interior architectures. In interior design, one does tend to focus more on the styling of the space. So sometimes, unfortunately, interior design slides into the interior decoration aspect. In interior architecture, we will teach you to do everything that goes into a space, barring learning about structures, because we leave structures up to structural engineers. Architects also learn about structures, but they leave structures up to structural engineers. No architect really ever designs their own structure. They design the building. So as an interior architect, you learn everything. You learn about sound systems, you learn about lighting systems, you learn about plumbing systems, heating systems, you learn about product, you learn about materials, textures, drapes, all of it. Landscape.
So like I said, other than just designing the outside of the building and the site, around it. You pretty much do everything.
No, maybe even the site around
Maybe even the site around it, and also some structures which are not like buildings. Like what about, let's say, a kiosk? That could be something that an interior architect does take up, because it doesn't involve a sort of any structural construction, as I put it, and that level of structures you anyways deal with.
Absolutely. And the thing is, very often actually with traditional architectural practices, anything that has to do with structure needs a sanction from the authorities, the municipalities, or whichever else the local bodies would be.
And when and where do we have to come with NATA score? I think these last couple of questions, Rimjhim, if you can take, because they also talk about where do they have to come with the NATA score, and again about the scholarships.
So the NATA score which we accept should be above 100, and I recommend you, any person who's applying for NATA should first call us. We'll check with the management on the procedure and then we'll get back to you. So you can note down the number. It's 9871383632, or you can note down one more number, that's 981819522.
Yeah. So again, there's another question, Rimjhim, on where the scholarships. So if you can just repeat the whole
Okay, so I'm repeating again about the scholarships. The students who are appearing in 12th are 100% eligible to apply for scholarship, but you have to first apply for our institute. You have to be the applicant. So hurry up, fill up the application form. The last date is 31st of March. Once you complete the application form, you will get the sample paper along with the scholarship form. So you need to fill up the scholarship form. You have to first download it because that's into a PDF format. So you have to download it, take out the printout, fill it, and you can just scan it, mail it back to us, or you can send us via post. So the eligibility to apply for scholarship, the minimum percentage that we need in 12th standard is 70%. Those who have completed the 12th, any board I'm repeating, whether it's ICSC, IB board, CBSC, any state board, in fact, NIOS boards, 70% is required to be eligible for your scholarships. And in English, it should be above 65%. This is the first step. The second step is the entrance exam performance. So you will get the scholarship or you will not get the scholarship. That entirely depends on the entrance exam performance. So you need to score good in your entrance exam in order to be eligible for the scholarship.
That's it. There is an Edward Newton
scholarship. Yes. So the second, if students are not awarded with the first level scholarship, you have another advantage, and that's the Edward Newton scholarship. That's from the second year onwards. So each course student, one student of each course will be awarded with a scholarship. 50% is the maximum amount. And once you apply to IIAD, we will surely get back to you with other questions.
Yeah, so there's another question here which says, is the studio simulation and portfolio tough?
Define tough.
Define tough. See, I always again tell my students, and I told them even lately, that if you enjoy any exam that you're giving, it's my personal experience, you will clear it.
Yeah.
So I think that is the logic that with which you should go for any exam you do, whether it's IIAD or any other, that you should try and enjoy the process because it's great fun. And if you're enjoying it, trust me, you'll do very well in it. So it's not tough really. It depends on how you want to take it. Don't get nervous. We're all friendly people. So it'll be fun. How many students do we accept? So per program, we are accepting about 60 students. Yeah, so around 60 students. That would be our cutoff for 60. Yes, you can do your master's abroad. And what is the cutoff for iDAT? I don't really understand that question. I mean, there is deadline. Deadline is March 31st.
31st March is the last date to submit the application form.
What do they mean like a score?
I think the score.
Yeah. So what is the?
So there is no asset score. Your performance in your entrance exam matters a lot. So whether you see, it's basically your written exam, your portfolio, and your studio simulation. So you have to appear in all 3 rounds in order to get admission to IIAD. So it's nothing like this that if you clear iDAT, then only you will get to the portfolio, and then to studio. You have to clear all the 3 rounds for taking admission.
I think again we have some questions on what do we have to do in studio simulation, though I think we've gone over it. Relax, there's no rocket science to it. You will be given a brief work
A
on
brief being an assignment
being
or
an
like
assignment.
a task to do.
Yeah. It would be to do with the design aptitude only. It will be something that you do in the studio, which is how a design school anyway works. Even as a student in a design school, you will be working in a studio on a given project or a given task or a given assignment, and your faculty will be moving around, interacting with you, advising you, critiquing you, and that is exactly what will happen in studio simulation. It's called studio simulation. It simulates an exact actual design studio process. So you will be given an assignment which will not be very complicated. You'll be asked to address it. All of you, however many students are assigned per room, will be together working in a studio environment. So it could be 50, it could be 30, it could be 45. I don't know yet. That depends on the kind of space. You'll all have your individual boards. You'll be working on them, and our faculty will be moving around, interacting with you. I hope that has answered your question. Yes, Rimjhim. So somebody is asking minimum mark in the entrance exam. Is it?
So I'm repeating once again, we have our entrance exam, that's IDAT, wherein we have 3 rounds. So you have to score an average, you should perform good in your written exam and your personal interview round, also your studio test. So there is no minimum marks required. We will get back to you with whether you are passed or you are failed, you cleared or you did not clear. That's it.
So it kind of works on a percentile system, much like the Czaee system. So if there are 100 students who apply, the top 20, for example, get now whether the highest mark for that top 20 is 100 upon 100 or it's 96 upon 100 or it could be 80 upon 100. So it is like that. So it's a percentile system rather than a cutoff, right? So I hope that kind of answers your, yeah. How are we going to be evaluated in all exams? Again, through your design aptitude. I think we have said that again and again.
Do they mean the exams like the aptitude test?
Yeah,
or
written
exams
No.
that you'll have while you're studying here?
In all exams, no. I think they meant for the entrance exam. So I think
the good news is we don't have exams.
Yeah, the good news is we don't have exams. Yeah, and no books. Well, you are
we
supposed
have
to
books.
Yeah, to read,
Yeah,
but you don't
books.
have textbooks. So there's no rote learning. Everything is learning by doing.
Yeah, there are no exams, no tests, nothing of that sort.
Yeah, but there are assignments.
There are assignments.
So thank you. I think we've also run out of time. So anything you wish to repeat, Rimjhim?
Yes, I'll repeat once again the admission procedure. So students who are interested to apply, make sure that the last date to submit the form is 31st of March. Class 12 students, I'm recommending you once again, please fill up the application form if you're interested as soon as possible, so that the earliest you fill the form, the earliest you will get the sample paper, and you will have ample of time to prepare well for the entrance. So you can go to www.apply to IIAD.com to fill up your application form, and you can also visit the website www.iiad.edu.in. For any further details, please contact the numbers mentioned on the screen. It's 9871383633 or 32. And I'm repeating again the entrance test centers. We will be conducting iDAT in Delhi also, and we have other examination centers. So our written exam, that's iDAT, will be on 14th of April this year, 2018, on the iDAT. And the next we have a portfolio assessment and studio simulation on 15th, 16th and 17th, all 3 dates, but you will be given with a proper slot in your admit cards. And the admit cards will be issued after 31st of March only. We have outstation test centers, Bangalore, Bhopal, Lucknow and Calcutta. The entrance exam is on 23rd of April 2018, and portfolio assessment is on 23rd as well as 24th of April. And if you have any further queries, do let us know. Also connect to the social media. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Good night.